Live streaming is on.
Okay. Just have to put it on Facebook. Okay. I just check as soon as it's starting on Facebook. I will start also. So yes. Okay. Okay, so yeah, we are live. We are live on Facebook. Good evening to everybody, to all the people who are connecting and are trying to follow this talk. I'm Francesco Brusa from Dinamo Press. I'm here with Tania Rispoli, also from the newsroom of Dinamo Press, and I'm also here with Nina Potarska, Vitalis Princiana, Ilya Budretskis, and the member of Anarchist Black Cross Belarus, and later we'll present more in depth our participants to this talk, whose title is War in Ukraine, a Leftist Perspective. So basically we would like, of course, to try to comment from different perspectives and also from different geographical point of view the unfolding events in Ukraine and the war, the Putin's aggression in Ukraine, what's happening, and also we'll try to raise some question about the causes of this war, of this aggression, and about some elements that maybe are becoming clear, let's say, with the unfolding of the military events, but more the thing that we would like to address more is how we can react to this, how can an interrelational left forces, if something like that exists, can build up a network of solidarity, a network of also forces and realities who can advocate for a ceasefire, peace, and so on. But yeah, before to go to this question, as I said, I would like to present a bit the participant of this talk. So we are here with Nina Potarska, who is from Ukraine, and she's a member of Women's League for Peace and Freedom in Ukraine. So she directly involved in the conflict, and she's trying to act and react in this context. Then we are here with Ilya Budretskis. Ilya Budretskis is from Russia. In Russian, he's an activist and a political analyst. He's the author of a very interesting book, which is called Dissidents Among the Dissidents, which deals let's say, with the leftist political paths that are possible in the post-Soviet context, if I may summarize a bit like this. Then we are here with Vitali Sprincena. Vitali is a sociologist and a journalist and an activist from Moldova. He lives in Chisinau, but right now is in Palanca, which is the southern Moldova border with Ukraine, very close to Odessa, where many people also are crossing the border and are coming from Ukraine. And since the very first moment of the war, he also started to be active in the refugees welcoming and acceptance. So we'll also listen from him something about this. And finally, we are also here with a member of Anarchist Black Cross in Belarus, which is an anti-authoritarian and anarchist network of activism and defense of political activists and political activists who are in prison or suffer repression from the authoritarian state. Of course, the member decided to stay, to remain anonymous, so we just talk in this meeting. And yeah, so as I said, our aim is try to have a broad talk about what is happening, try to give voice first to the person who are directly suffering from the consequence of Putin's aggression, and try to understand the different perspective and try to understand the way we can build up some international solidarity about this. And so, as a first way, maybe to introduce the talk, I would like to ask to all the participants if they can just tell us a bit. Basically, as long as they could, of course, but what they are doing, where are they now, what's their reaction to the war, what's the way they manage, the way they manage to find to be somehow active within this difficult and tragic context, and also since all the people that are participating in this talk are were politically active before the war, how the war is affecting, their political views, their political efforts, and how they are maybe managing to translate their previous political efforts into this new upcoming context. I will start maybe with Nina Potaska, as I said, from the Women's League of Freedom and Peace in Ukraine. So if she can a bit tell us a bit, yeah, what's happening from her point of view, basically. And I thank, of course, Nina and all the participants to be here.
Yeah, thank you for this discussion. It's also interesting to have these different participants from different places of post-Soviet space. But it's a bit hard to talk to me for me today because every day we had a new I don't know how to say. So it's we every day we have a new shock and we need time to relieve. Even today, 2 hours ago I prefer refuse to participate because after, if maybe you know, today we have shelling on railway station during the evacuation in Kramatorsk, and in this time I'm involved in this process of evacuation of my team, of my of the families of families members of my team. So after this, every day we feel that it's even difficult to think about, I don't know, any strategic or making any analysis because we are on a stage of surviving, and it's a very weak position for making any analysis or any reflection because we are suffering from lack of the basic needs, covering of these basic needs. And I think many of feminist organization and left organization now engage in the humanitarian aid, and it's like urgent help for people every day. So, and we faced with a very different and very, I don't know, untypical problems for everyday life. So uh, it's even difficult to describe, or even I don't want to make a shock for everyone, but you can open news, and of course all that we are doing, it's the same as others. We are trying to find food, medicine, organize uh, abortion for women who are suffering from rapes, and I don't know, it's just a mess of all of this. So I don't know if it's even my participation here very, I don't know, effective for high level ideological discussion, but it's how it is. And from my background, I started working with the conflict from the very beginning, from 2014. And because of this, I'm not feel that it's something new for me, because I know how what is a shelling, what is a, I don't know, war reality, and what how it's everyday life affected by conflict, and how it's unsafe, and how women suffering from this from any conflict, and how it's affect any infrastructure, and how it's how people dealing with basic needs, how they organize safe places for sleeping, I don't know, trying to find food or like this. So, and in the same time, I'm more focused on women rights, and care work, reproductive work, and through lines of conflict. And of course, everyday women or everyday life of average women, full of caring of elderly children, and obtaining food, all these on their duties, and they need to do continue doing this even during the conflict. And and from the my point of view, the first stage of the conflict was very so we faced, because this conflict start from the east, in Kiev Oblast and other region. We received this information about war just from media, and maybe from Facebook, from messages from our friends. So and during that time, we mentioned that it was huge talks about masculinity, militarization, and so on. So in my first research, we decided to switch this focus for everyday life and show how war affect all people, and this, or sometimes not directly, sometimes indirectly, but this time we feel this effect. We feel that this conflict affected us at all from many levels. From, I don't know, I even don't know person who are now not thinking about this conflict. And I can stop, and maybe we can switch to others, and after that I can
Thank
add
you.
something else,
Yes.
because for today it's really difficult for me to to participate, but I will try to be with you.
Thank you, Nina, for sharing your perspectives and the huge concerns that this war is causing to all of you, all of us. Really, thank you. I would ask Ilya if he would like to step in and say something around the first question that Francesco posed. So, welcome, Ilya.
Welcome. Thank you. Hi. I want to start with maybe my personal perspective. So some weeks ago, as many other Russian activists, I had to leave the country. From the very beginning of this war, from the very beginning of the protests of this war, the very serious wave of repression started, and these repressions, they moved the political regime in Russia in a new kind of stage. So we can say that it's a transformation to some kind of fascist regime, fascist dictatorship. But even for now, there are many news about the personal or collective acts of resistance, acts of anti-war activity in various regions in Russia, despite of the data of different opinion polls that majority of Russians support this war. There is a serious doubt of it. Firstly, because you can't count the opinion polls in the situation of the very repressive dictatorship, and secondly, because still there are many examples of anti-war expressions in Russia. So for the moment, me and some other activists, some of them are abroad already, some are still in the country, we try to work on some projects, some propaganda projects, especially because the let's say the field of information, of distribution of information in Russia shrinkled quite rapidly during last months. And it's very important to distribute some alternative analysis, some alternative type of news that are covered by the official propaganda. So that is the situation quite shortly.
Yeah, thank you, Leah. And yeah, maybe I just ask to Anarchist Black Cross if to step in and just to give us some insights about the situation in Belarus, which I know it's it's also difficult, and the political viability is not that high. Please.
Right. Hi, everyone. I have to say, first of all, that our experience as the Anarchist Black Cross has been mostly an anti-repressive group. So we're not like an action group that is like doing something in the street specifically. So I or my comrades could be part of other collectives that would do different anarchist organizing, of course, but here I am speaking mostly from the perspective of organizing the support for our comrades. And what we've been doing for the last 10 years is basically supporting anti-authoritarian activists, anti-fascists, and like anarchists who were repressed or persecuted by the regime. So like our comrades have been in jail like starting from 2010. It didn't happen like 2 years ago. So basically we were like collecting money, providing some legal support, providing support like post-prison support, let's say, for people who would be released. And since 2020, we had to like really intensify our activities, because at the moment we were like having about 35 comrades who we are supporting. We're like not a big collective. Our like usual number was maximum 6 people at a time that we were able to support nonstop. And so at the moment, like we need to really do a lot of like crowdfunding and stuff like that for people to cover their costs. And what happened after, right? So of course, war influenced our condition, and like watching this from some of our members are based outside Belarus now. Some of us are still in Belarus, so this is like, it's horrible to witness that, and or like also to be part of it to some extent. And what we tried to do is like we need to still support people who are in jails, right? Because they can't run away or like can't be active anymore. But also with the war, we also had to think about some of our Belarusian activists that used to be staying in Ukraine, because many people ran away to Ukraine after the protests. So we helped to evacuate those, or help those who decided to stay and fight. And we also were in touch with the ABC Kiev. That is a chapter that used to like provide support to political refugees from Russia. And those Russian refugees like found themselves sometimes undocumented in Ukraine and had to like flee the country also, or some of them also joined the resistance, as far as I know. And so basically we took, because ABC Kiev could not continue their work anymore, so we took part of these tasks. And basically we are now, some of us that are not living in Belarus are helping in the like more or less international network initiative of different ABC groups that are providing fundraising and support to a volunteer organization called Operation Solidarity, that is providing in their turn, they're providing support to different activists from the leftist movement or from the anarchist movement that decided to stay and fight or join the territorial defense. So that's basically what some of us have been doing in terms of like war that is not connected to like specifically repression. How it influenced us, I think like the whole thing made it really difficult for us to like, so basically we need money all the time, right? But also it seems very irrelevant now to like crowdfund for political prisoners while atrocities are happening in Ukraine, and Ukraine needs so much money and so much support. So this is one problem that we're facing. So like we cannot anymore like specifically address other collectives and comrades to like funnel money to us, because it feels like other people need it better. Or also it's become quite difficult for us to evacuate some of the people who were repressed, like to get them out of Belarus, because many European countries like cancel, like just as for Russia, many of them canceled visas and or if they haven't canceled, they made it like really difficult for people to legalize if they join. And this is a bit problematic, because some of the people would like to go, and there is like a spring conscription at the moment in Belarus. So some of the people would like to avoid being drafted. And not so many of them can leave, actually, because previously they would always leave to Ukraine first and then try to go further to Europe or even stay in Ukraine. Now it's not possible. Going to Russia doesn't make sense. And so, yeah, so this is basically how the thing is going on. And I think on a human level, I think it's problematic, but I think from a political level, I think this is what we as people, as activists, have to deal with, because we are part of this war. We can't just say, okay, we're just activists, so we don't have to, have any consequences because we were against war in the first place. But unfortunately, the country is part of the war. So even if Lukashenko's army is not marching to Kiev yet, still Putin is using it as a platform to bomb and shell and also stage Russian troops there. So this is so politically we have to suffer those consequences, I think. And yeah, so we have to deal with that. As for our position in war, I think anarchists historically used to reject war or reject draft, call people to desert or to go to avoid draft and stuff like that. But I think because also we are from Belarus and we know what it's like to as activists, we know what it's like to lose our places where we're not safe anymore, to have to run, to to be parted with our families. So we understand that our collective position is total complete support to the Ukrainian people in this fight. So we're not calling for a pacifist agenda here. I mean, as some of the anarchists do in the West, for example, or trying to analyze who's better, who is worse, NATO or Russia and stuff like that. So we support people who decided to stay and fight, because we also understand that this war is not just a war of Ukraine and Russia. It's influencing the whole hemisphere, let's say, the whole post-Soviet territory, and it influences a lot Belarus, and how it ends would influence all the countries that we are representing here today. Yeah, so that would be my intervention for now.
Thank you so much, ABC. We have just heard from the anarchist Black Cross, and thank you very much also for explaining clearly what is your position and your take on this war that is, as Ilya also was saying, an imperialist war dictated by specific Putin policies. So it has been really interesting to understand what are your all different takes on this situation. I would now call Vitaly. If Vitaly, if you want to unmute yourself and try to answer to this first question. So again, what is your take on this war, and what your group is doing in terms of actions of solidarity and the political actions within this context? Thank you.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'll try to be short, knowing that Ilya doesn't have that much time. I'll try to be short. I feel a little bit weird in the sense that Moldova is really. I feel like I'm in a privileged situation. Moldova is not directly part of the war, and unlike Ilya I didn't have to leave my place, or unlike other groups, I don't have to think about survival. So all my empathy, sympathy, and solidarity go with them and with all the people affected by the war. since the day 1 or 2, like on the first day, we organized a small protest in front of the Russian embassy, demanding the stop of military activities. And then, as Moldovans, our group started to organize, because it coincided, like the shelling of Ukraine, and also there was this huge flow of people fleeing the war. There were these horrendous images from the border points, and we basically boarded on buses and went to the border to give a hand of help for whatever is needed there. So we've been, since the end of February, we've been at various border points. Since Palanka, the place where I'm in right now, was the main entrance for Ukrainian refugees from Odessa region. I've been here irregularly since the end of February, and we were doing really what is needed: carrying luggage, if people needs giving advices, informing people, providing various other types of assistance like psychological, uh, some medical, food, and a lot of other things. In the beginning, it was just us, Moldovan volunteers. Now there is like large humanitarian organizations, so we're kind of it's better organized, and our group, in a way, kind of did this and is still doing that, a kind of a propaganda by acts. Like, we're trying to help. Mostly our colleagues in Chisinau are dealing with the accommodation for people that don't have where to stay, transportation for people arriving very late in various points of Moldova and with nowhere to go or needing a place to go. So we've been doing kind of this thing for the whole, or almost the whole period. And that, of course, kind of left put on hold most of our previous activities that we're doing. So we're planning on doing a large reading circle on alternatives to neoliberalism for this year. So probably there is no time now for reading groups during the war. We're trying to do some other things, and they had to be put on hold, unfortunately. And that's kind of probably, I hear that from my other comrades, because of this kind of emergency and this need to do things every day, various things that need your even physical kind of presence and doing various things. There was not that much time on reflection, so we've kind of lagged behind on that. We didn't kind of assemble together and try to have a kind of unitary or like common position. We've been reacting to some developments. We've been reacting, for example, to the development that despite the kind of all this claim that Moldova is hosting refugees and is showing solidarity and hospitality, not all the refugees were welcome. And we're trying to, our colleagues were especially careful and especially active in finding accommodation and providing more solidarity to the Roma people, to other like to the LGBT people, to men that were running Ukraine, and everybody was looking with suspicion that they didn't stay there in Ukraine. So it's like that. Of course, we were affected, but again, I don't want to talk about how we were affected because that I don't want to compare my. It was for us. It was, yeah, it was a scare. Yeah, it was a panic, but it's nothing compared to the real hardships that other people had to endure. So, like probably, and I'm saying that I don't know how it will sound, but probably our effort of solidarity, our effort of putting a lot of voluntary work in helping the refugees was a way for us to kind of avoid the panic and to fight it. So we've been very active, but like right now it's kind of, again, as cynical as it might sound, we kind of got used to that. We got used to it, and we're seeing probably Moldova is this privileged place until now, but it probably would be this very strange case where there was no war, but we're seeing the same or some of the developments we're seeing in Russia or in other places. For example, under this banner of fighting propaganda, there is like an increasing of censorships. There is a talk about militarization in the society. There is a fascination with weapons that was never here before. There is a wave of Russophobia that kind of, it's a very problematic development because it kind of legitimizes the discrimination and the hatred towards a group in the Moldovan society. There is a naturalization of death, like the media doesn't have any kind of moral or ethical problems now to just reports and to show killings, bodies, and it's, of course, those are different problems than our comrades were talking, but still, that might be the case that the Moldovan society would be affected without even be part of this war, and the fragile Moldovan democracy to be a huge victim of this. We call it like the second despotism. There was this state of emergency instituted with the COVID pandemic, and now it's kind of now we have another state of emergency where again democracy is kind of suspended in the name of security and safety and so on. So that would be kind of my take, and I don't have, of course, the right to say that the take of my group, but these are the discussions that we're having within the group, and yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Vitali, and thank you all the people. Yeah, and I try to go, let's say, to the second question, second topic we would like to discuss. But it's true, and I guess it's I mean, it's true what Nina, for instance, said at the very beginning, that I mean, it's not really the time to reflect. I mean, that's what we wanted to do, try to make the effort, despite, of course, I mean, me firstly, and Tanya, who's like in this position of privilege. It's kind of weird and to say, but we would like to do this this effort to think, but also to try to think through telling what's happening, and we thought that it was very important to do it from the point of view, as we said, of countries that are now involved in the conflict in a direct way. But so yes, and Anarchist Cross, and you all also mentioned a very huge and I would say important topic, which is let's say the what is changing in the whole space, let's say, between Russia and Moldova, a space that we can call it post-Soviet space, some countries that were formerly part of the Soviet Union, and the different political developments after the Soviet Union collapse, and sometimes similar, sometimes different, but still that share in common maybe this common path. So I would like to ask you more or less from your point of view, what's the evolution, the recent evolution in your country in relation with the war? So as again, as you said correctly to me, this war is no, it's an aggression, it's an imperialistic aggression, it's a fight between two national army on one level, but on the other level, it's also a fight, a struggle for preserving certain rights, for freedom, I will say, for a certain idea of society that are and you were struggling for also before, some of you, but all of you, I will say. So so very generally, what's your take of the war? What kind of levels you see in action, from the civil, social one, from the to the military one, and maybe even, if you want to say something about that, to the geopolitical one, because at the other point there are a lot of actors involved in this, in the global sphere. So yeah, maybe again, no, there are a lot of different topics in Russia, the question of the system of power of Putin, how it has evolved, and how it could evolve in the future. Maybe yeah, in Ukraine also there is this debate about the different political identities that are mixed in the society, and so on. So I would like to ask you if you want to say something about this, about the political context of the country within the context of the war, and yeah, a general take on the war and the level of the war that you see the most important to yeah, to pay attention to. And I will start maybe with Ilya Budraitskis, that maybe will leave us in a while, but I will thank you again for the participation. Please.
Thank you. So the start of this the start of this war, as for most of people in Russia, was quite unexpected for me. It was a big shock, but somehow the further reflection led me to the conclusion that it's a kind of very logical evolution of this regime. It's answer to its inner crisis, and it's a form of very bloody and very dangerous, very scary agony of the regime that Putin was establishing for the last 2 decades. And when we call this regime for now as a form of new fascism, it's not just a kind of emotional reaction, but I think that it has some clear, let's say, analytical value. So we need to somehow reinvent the notion of fascism. We need to understand how it related to the neoliberal destruction of the society, and especially Russian society, over the last decades, over the decades of post-Soviet transition, because I think that the crucial for the definition of fascism is the destruction of any elements of the self-organization in the society, destruction of all the elements of democracy, of democratic forms in the society. And that was exactly what happened in Russia. That was exactly what happened with the Russian society, that was permanently like melted in the market neoliberal way into the individuals confronted with each other, which led to the lack of any forms of solidarity in the society. And of course, there was different forms, different ways of resistance for this fascization, for this development of the regime, but unfortunately they were not enough. So the other important conclusion should be that what happened in Russia with this evolution of Putin regime is not something something special, is not something related only to some unique condition of Russian post-Soviet development, but unfortunately it could be a role model for the evolution of the far-right movements, of the autocratic regimes in other parts of the world. So in this sense, the struggle against this regime is not just a regional thing. It also very much connected to the, let's say, the political future of the world. So that, I think, could be a very brief general reflection on the situation where we are now.
Thank you, Ilya. We really appreciate your analysis, which connects the emergence of fascism and nationalism to the neoliberalism itself. So how the force, the destructive force of neoliberalism produced as an effect this political model of Putin, which, by the way, you underline that is not only regional, but a kind of global tendency. We would love to have you also for the third question. I know that you are running short and out of time, but if you could stay with us, let's say one more half an hour, we would love to hear from you. What do you think of the possibilities around a global international network of solidarity? And now I would ask to Nina if she would like to unmute herself and try to answer to this question that is related to a kind of social political analysis of the post-Soviet space, starting from your own experience and position. Nina?
Yeah. I told you that it's extremely difficult, but a couple of things that I'm trying to think last days. It's how to be with this binary in this world, and what we can do when our representatives in the government, because we are all depend like citizens of our government, how we can protect ourselves from their policy. And as I can see, all our countries now in a same weak position, because I'm not pay attention for people who support war in Ukraine, in Russia. It's something above my ability to understand how it's possible. But I really understand situation for my friends and activists who are out of Russia, who are still Russians, and who are not able to cope with their government. And we all, like, I don't know, losers, like refugees. And I don't know how to protect my family, my friends, and how to stop all of this. And I think nobody know how it's possible to do. And in the same time, I understand the people in Europe when they are in a very near future, they will suffering from high prices on fuel, and we received the information from our section from Africa that they are already have a problem with the food, because Russia stopped this export to North Africa, and not only. So we are like, I don't know, victims of this policy of states, and I don't know how we can be in touch and making this connection between, because I know that a lot of my friends from human rights society, they are not even ready to talk to Russians, to any, because after this, after we have now we have a lot of friends and relatives who are already affected this by this conflict, or physically, or I don't know. Everybody now have somebody we lost. So I know that it's maybe not now, maybe, but I always stand on the dialogue approach, and I believe that it's possible to have dialogue, but we need to be prepared to this, not just technically, but also mentally. And first of all, we need peace inside of us, because it's or how we can direct this hate not to each other, but to somebody who really have to respond on this. Yes, that's all.
Thank you very much, Nina, and yeah, thank you to share your views despite the difficult of the situation you are in. And yeah, so I will ask maybe Vitaly if he wants to try to add something to the topic from the point of view of Moldova, but in general, no, from the point of view of the country we are speaking of. You already mentioned something about the some division that were existing before and maybe now are coming emerging more. So yeah, but again, so if you want also to give us your take about the war, your interpretation, and more in general, let's say.
Yeah, my comrades have already mentioned some of the things that I wanted to say, so I will not repeat that. Ilya mentioned the economic side of it. It's part of a larger neoliberal project. Both, like, in a way, Putin is the result, but also the effect, or like, and I think we should really think about that when even talking about peace, because, like, of course, we immediately want that the military actions to stop, but when talking about peace, we should talk about what kind of peace do we want. Apart from that, I was really shocked, and I might not be. I'm really not a believer in geopolitics, but I was really shocked about, or to see, the return of the politics of great powers. So basically, I was seeing this language of spheres of influence, great powers, uh, Russia, or Putin saying about Russia that Russia feels threatened by somebody entering its sphere of influence, and that it was really crazy. It was even crazier to see that Zelensky and Putin didn't meet at least once prior to this war. So basically, all the discussions were kind of taking place with other people, like USA, Russia, NATO, Russia, EU, Russia, Macron, Putin, and so on and so forth, and Ukrainians not having a voice in a process, in a conflict that really affects them directly. Well, at one point, when this whole crazy thing ends, we'll have to reassess, probably, or to think again how we ended up here. And I think because we're at least sharing the same kind of legacy, we'll have to think about how we ended up here in a kind of a very conservative environment with quasi-legalization, quasi-normalization of fascism. And we'll have to talk about a process through which all our countries have gone. And this is the process of erasure of all this socialist legacy, which, as problematic as it was, but it was at least an attempt to build a new kind of world, a world where solidarity was really part of the things, and how we ended up kind of not only erasing it but kind of fighting it and deleting it when it was most needed. Ilya, yeah, he's not here anymore, but in his book, and I read the book when it came out in Russian, and I was really fascinated by how exactly he described that the Soviet, like what they called pejoratively like Homo Sovieticus, like he's more needed now, or he's more alive now in the talks and in the discourse of the right-wing propaganda, as being kind of the one to take all the blame, and how Ilya was describing how this kind of became really I don't know, a target. So most of this of our so-called transition was a removal and a fight against whatever we could achieve in terms of solidarity, in terms of as a project for another world where like there will be a different logic than the capitalist one. And I think that's kind of a really huge loss that we kind of didn't replace. And this is probably connected to that. I wanted to say that I feel in a way I feel powerless, like, and I guess it's not only my personal feeling, but it's on the one hand, like I'd like this to stop, but on the other hand, I understand that I don't know, neither or very few of the instruments that we as leftists have developed during history to stop this kind of madness. It's not working because we lost, like, even we start to read like our ancestors, like how the socialists opposed the World War One, and at least they were trying to organize some mass strikes. At least they were trying to use this instrument. And like you see now how difficult it was to organize any protest in Russia or in our countries. You see, and that's one of the consequences of this fragmentation of the proletariat, of the working class, of the fact that now we have precarious workers with no solidarity whatsoever, because all the institutions that were binding them together, like labor unions, they were destroyed. And you see this kind of, there is like, you have this desire to stop it, but none of these instruments is working anymore. Strike is not working anymore. So it's kind of, that gives you a very pessimistic kind of perspective, and as if the only option now is to beg for this imperialist powers to kind of try to stop Russia. We're saying, and probably everybody was thinking, or everybody from the left, or at least most people from the left were thinking along the line that like there's no better advertising now for NATO than this Russian aggression. There is no better advertisement for militarization than this aggression. Like all the critical thinking about militarization was kind of suspended in our countries because of this war. And yeah, I don't want to repeat the things that I said before. Also, like, because of this return of the politics of great powers, we're seeing various other actors trying to kind of play their game in this war. So we're seeing like Erdogan trying to play a game and kind of to raise the status of Turkey as part of this kind of new configuration of the region. And that's also, to me, it's very sad that instead of I don't know how to call it, international civil society, global civil society, global there are even not words for that. We're kind of retreating back in the year of the concert of powers, the balance of powers, and the politics of great powers. So for me, all this war will mean a lot of steps back. It like pushes us further from the ecological agenda, from the climate change agenda. Like right now, nobody's talking about climate change. Everybody's talking about how we can fight the dependence on Russia by reinventing or by stopping the so-called transition to a more circular and more clean economy, so fossil fuels and a lot of other. There is this militarization, of course, will push back a lot of our feminist struggles because it puts the males at the center of the care, of the center of like the importance for saving the motherland, the fatherland, and also a lot of other mechanisms. In Moldova, I have the feeling now that I'm too young to remember that, but by reading the newspapers, is as if we're just before the perestroika, like with all this censorship, and I guess a lot of it is yet to come, like a lot of Russophobia. To just give you an example, on the first day of the war, one of the teachers at the State University of Chisinau was having a class with a Russian-speaking group, and he came there and told Moldovan citizens who happened to use Russian as their language in the university, he told them, like, I will not talk to you anymore in Russian because this is the language of the aggressor. And it's like you see, and that's really like a very small example of something that could escalate further and can be very, very, very problematic. And it's already problematic in the sense that now it's really kind of accepted, or it's not a problem anymore to post Russophobic messages, to equate Putin with Russians,
or